Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, citizens, councillors, citizens, residents, visitors, and welcome back to the Krayven's Town streaming complex on this Sunday, the 16th of June 2019. And if it is your first time here, a very hearty, warm welcome to the Krayven channel. And whether you've been here before or it is your first time and everything in between, welcome to Story Sunday. And we have a number of submissions ready to go. Let me just realised I hadn't actually finished up a bunch of other things that I was cracking on. But first and foremost, it's a little bit of warm-up time. Citizen Tootsaka is in the house. I saw this channel is for mature audiences. Alas, I am not mature. Well, thankfully, neither am I. I run a channel that I actually couldn't physically attend in my own right, so I guess you're off the hook. Happy Sunday, everyone. How's your weekend been? I do hope you are all splendid and have a great time. Don't worry, nobody here is. Resident see you dying. Hello. And he's not wrong. Yeah, first I'll just rattle through a little bit of what's going on in my weekend. Catch me up on your stories in the meantime. Please fill up the chat. What you've been up to. Doesn't matter how trivial or how magnificent. Share it with the group. We're all friends and we're all very silly. It's been actually got out. The last couple of weekends before this one, I stopped in a little, trying to save a bit of money and also just take it easy after a couple of big weekends up in London and around and about. And but yeah, this one, see, Friday took it pretty steady. Saturday, most of the day, I was just doing, pottering about, doing stuff during the day, like getting things done, little bits of chores. Wait, did you get a second monitor? No. Sadly, see, I was still a dirty one monitor scrub streamer. My second monitor is sadly still my phone. So if you're looking at my eye movements, OBS now allows off screen here and off screen here to have your chat up there. So I find it, at least while I'm in this scene as opposed to an in-game scene, in which case I'm looking at a full screen game, to just look over to one side and read the chat as opposed to look down quite so much. No. It's don't worry, I'll be doing plenty of crotch staring during part 2. I went out for beers with Mr. Redwood, caught up with an old mutual friend of mine and his in the evening, and we were going to have a huge one, which went out to a pub called the Lighthouse in Oxford, formerly Rosie O'Grady's, if you know the local area, and settled in for a beverage or 5. So that was good. Hey, Citizen Dextro Anarchy, hello, with a little bit of Ryan AVX's cat, if I recognise that rightly. Let me just mouse over that. Yes, Frankerface, Ryan AVX, hi. Ryan's a lovely guy. He's an excellent retro streamer. An all-round pleasant. Dex, how you been? What did you get up to this week? And likewise, see you dying. What did you crack on with Tootsaka? What's new, all of you? Have you had any little fun excursions? Played any fun games? Caught any new announcements? Tis indeed. So just had an actual Saturday night out locally as opposed to staying in or bombing it all the way back up to London again, so that was nice. And took it pretty steady. Went back on the 1 o'clock bus. And a little aside about this, if you've lived in a small town and your main city or bigger town is your main sort of social going out town, you might be familiar with the joys of the period of the night bus, the last bus home. Now, England is the UK is certainly no exception to this global, certainly Western phenomenon. And probably elsewhere as well. The night buses are usually not so much buses as they are mobile riots. And I used to find that funny once upon a time, maybe 10 years ago when I was part of said mobile riot. But as I've aged and gotten a bit wiser, or maybe not wiser, more embittered, thwarted, bent over and beaten down by life. I try and avoid that quite so much now. It's because and there's two, because the last bus during the week will usually run till about 11:30, so pub closing time in the UK. But on a Friday and a Saturday night, most of the local buses that go to little regional towns out of Oxford or any other major city in whatever county will go at midnight and 1 and 2 and 3 a.m. and 3 a.m. will be the last one when the clubs usually close. The last of the clubs put their lights on in the UK. And two you really don't want to be on is the midnight one, because the midnight one is everyone who's decided to get leathered in the pub but doesn't go clubbing anymore. So older drunk people and underage drunk folks. Dex, thanks so much for the host 3am. What a luxury. God, I wish. Dex, thank you to Krayven Sam Minions cheering your honour. Anyway, I got on one of the buses, but just for a little bit of context, and it's just kind of funny to think about, I find. The midnight bus is a bit of a nightmare because all the kids who are under 18 and they managed to get served in a pub, but they didn't manage to get into a nightclub or couldn't go out any further. They're all leathered off about 2 pints, and they go on the midnight bus, and they're a pain in the ass to deal with, and they've still got spots and shit like, you know, because they're still going through puberty. And then they get progressively worse. And the 3am one is with, like, the reason we have this boozed up culture in Britain is because the closing times. When I lived abroad, people just went home when they wanted, and the clubs would run till the last person leaves at like 7 o'clock in the morning. But what we do is we all get drunk because we're like, oh, we've got a closing time, we've got to get all our drinking in, and then everyone who wants to stick around to the very end and longer, they throw them all out onto the street at the same time, and then they wonder why there's fights and the police are called. It's like, how will they all get home? You know what? We'll take all the most drunk people and the most leery and aggressive, and we'll shove them all in a small box with nowhere near enough room while they're all like carrying their chips and burgers and kebabs and whatnot, and are all really loud and obnoxious, and then the whole journey will take roughly an hour to get to its final destination. There's a bright idea. Nothing could possibly go wrong. Citizen His Market, how you doing? Oh, I can only imagine, yeah, pretty much 6am to 9am. Exactly. In the UK, it's like the 3 o'clock bus. They're all legendary. The last bus home to whatever way you need to go, that's just full of all the drunks. Anyway, hey, Citizen Sandtrooper, folks, welcome on in. Loving all the folks coming in as a finish up. I jumped on the 1 o'clock bus. Me and Mr. Redwood, our friends had to get back on the train, which leaves even early, about 10:30, and he and I we hadn't had a catch up in person for about a month now, which is quite a long time for us, and made the diplomatic and prudent choice myself, because I have to go back to my little hometown here, is at the end of the line of the route I'm on. It's at the very end of the line, which sucks. So it takes ages, and you've got to like get through all the riotous and raucous behaviour. Yeah. So yeah, the 1 o'clock one is the midnight, like early drunk crowd have gone, and it hasn't got so rammed up like the 2am and even worse the 3am. I saw that. I actually looked and saw it coming up.
Pride Lion, hey.
Pride Lion, hey indeed, Darkins, thank you so much for the 75 biddies. So yeah, got in at 1, and then today did a thing, because it's Father's Day in the UK and the US, and I think actually Father's Day is pretty much internationally all the same. Mother's Day happens on different days of the year depending on which country you're in, because it's a much older celebration. And Darkins, Citizen Darkins, how you doing? Citizen Piney Druid, you beat me to it there, but yes, that will be coming up in immediate announcements of actual updates to the channel. Sound Trooper, how you doing? As for this weekend, taking it real easy this way, got a minor case of stomach flu. Oh, Dex, I'm sorry to hear it. Watched a bunch of streams and played a bunch of games. Sick, sweet. Always important to get drunk. That's what I do first thing in the morning before I go to work. Dude, Saka, like we are of one mind. We are of one mind. How long have you known each other for? When I met you guys, you seemed real tight, like brother from another mother. Yeah. Red and I met each other in 1997 because we're very old men, and we became like friends really from about 6th form, so about 2002. So we've been close friends for 17 years, and we've known each other for 22 years. So yeah. Yeah, you picked up on that vibe. We are very clicky. We know each other extraordinarily well. Very old men. That makes me a fossil. Ha! I'm older than you, Dex. What are you chatting? Jesus. If you're a fossil, I'm basically calcified, like plankton, like prehistoric plankton from the formation of life on the planet. I met my brother from another mother in 1997 as well. Wow, good year to meet siblings from different parents. Clearly, Piney Druid. Yeah, but today, hang on, how old are you? I am 33. I'm 34 in like 3 months. Yeah, no problem at all. I won't ask yourself but I'm totally okay with it. I'm 33. And yeah, today, so as it's Father's Day, a friend of mine's fiance had a very nice idea. Oh, really? Jesus Christ, how many virgins are you sacrificing and bathing in their blood, Dextro? No, I know, but Christ. I mean, I get some people saying I don't look that old, but the old disappearing hairline's starting to give it away, and the lines are catching the light at every direction. But holy shit. I'm assuming you're like stabbing chickens in a pentagram and giving thanks to Cthulhu for perpetual youth. That's no bollocks. I call shenanigans on that. I just woke up. I'm glad I didn't miss the Reddit reading. Not Dark Attack again with a ton of submissions ready to go. So, because this idea from my friend's fiance, unfortunately, a close mutual friend of mine, Mr. Redbeard, lost his father to cancer in the last week, which fucking sucks. I don't want to put a downer on things, really, but I'm 36, the official old man of the community as far as I don't know. Sadice isn't in there very much, but I think he's in his 40s. I do blood rituals every Wednesday. It's it really sucks because I've known that guy and I've been friends with him since 1996. He's probably one of my longest standing friends, and but the idea, this is already quite a nice thing, and I mentioned it in Town Square, and you responded and you thought it was a nice concept, so I hope it spread. So rather than a Father's Day, we're doing a Father's Memorial Day, and invited myself and another friend. My old man passed away, actually, yeah, what is it? On the 10th was the first anniversary of his passing. Yeah, he went last year from brain cancer, unfortunately, and I had another friend who lost his from brain cancer. So it's like we're sitting there, like, rather than just have Father's Day be a bit of either like a genuinely sad day or like, oh, that's a shitty reminder kind of thing, decided to pull the idea of why don't we get together, raise a glass to their memory, and it's a very nice excuse to sort of still have dinner, so we can meet up socially, and our mums come along, obviously, because there's former spouses and stuff like that, so we've got a good excuse to get together, which is sometimes harder these days as we all settle down and have families or whatever you do. And we just decided it was the first incarnation of that, and hopefully it will become an annual thing. We decided, right, we can get Sunday lunch, we'll go to a pub, we'll go on Father's Day, and we'll go to absent friends and missed loved ones and have a nice chat and make what would otherwise be a shitty thing like a nice excuse to still keep going. And it's sort of just a little honorific, a little bit of respect for the memories of folks. You've been friends longer than I've been alive. Sandtrooper, you have to admit, in the Twitch audience, I'm finding that's quite a common thing, but hopefully one day, you know, you'll have friendships that last that long as well. 2 years ago, for my dad, prostate cancer. The amount of folks, especially, it's spooky in our group. Piney, that really sucks. I'm sorry to hear, but yeah, like all these dads just like dropping down to cancer ahead of time is a bit of a shit. Hey, Councillor Lila, hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and in case I don't see you, good night. Truman Show reference. But it's a beautiful way of coping with loss, celebrate lost loved ones. Yeah, I thought it was nice that 9 years ago for your dad. Oh fuck, Sandtrooper, that sucks. Well, I would say to one and all already here in the streaming complex, sitting in your VIP seating with your popcorn and your broadswords and your novelty Krayven hats. Obviously, I'm sure you've made them independently. A very happy Father's Day to fathers past and present, be they hopefully good memories, and those of you who still got them, I hope you really enjoyed the day. And also a shout out to if you have the single parent and your mum was your dad as well as your mum, here's to all the mums who are also dads as well. So happy Father's Day, or happy Father's Memorial Day.
Pride Lion, yay. Here chat, have some emotes. Pride Lion, yay.
Oh my word, Darkens, thank you so much for another 200 biddies. Holy shit. Right, folks, go into emotes, search out Pride, and see if you're one of the lucky recipients of another 3 emotes. I swear the roster for most of you has been filled by Darkens on his Todd. Shout out to Krayven, the big and lovely lad. Oh, Nilson Alex, Mr. Nilson Alex, thank you so much. Plus, as you're in the chat, I haven't got to do this for a little bit longer than I'd care to say. Custom shout. And he waddled away, waddle, to the very next day. Bum, 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 bum. Hey, you! Yes, you! Do you like great retro games, Ninja Turtles, although not so much now, and marvellous people? Then you need to see Nilson Alex 92, an excellent fellow and a streamer from Sweden who's a great addition to Twitch's splendid retro community. Throw him a follow and join the Turtle Squad there. You see there? There. Go do that there. And if someone has a custom shout out and their own sound alert, you know that's a rare treat. They are Krayven approved. Do go and give them some love. Oh yes, Alex, I still have that sound alert. I don't know how long it's been since you last heard it, but I've kept it alive because I know how much you love it. You are welcome. Live at Stankin. Oh, speaking of which, I should probably to the delightful, multi-talented and multi-awesome as well. Do go and throw some love to Miss Dextro Anarchy. When she's on, she's always doing a fun show and does a variety of things, and is particularly good at the old Cuphead. All right, well, yes, announcements. That's what I've been up to. That's what's been going on. A happy Father's Day to all. Just some quick things regarding. Oh, we've got a hunt underway already! Exclamation mark hunt! Exclamation mark hunt! Everyone in the chat right now has got more than enough creds to spare. Let's go and deal with some of those pesky monsters in the Badlands south of Cravenstown. So, quick updates. Firstly, I've changed a few things around in Cravenstown again. The visitor centre is now the Welcome Boulevard because the visitor centre seemed like somewhere that you'd go at any given time. And what I've done, I've actually changed the invite so that people get announced in Town Square, but they appear and they arrive in the Welcome Boulevard, formerly Visitor Centre. Partly because that way people don't miss the rules and the overview, because a lot of people are still struggling sometimes with knowing where the right things are to post stuff, and is our primary rule to make sure, like in any Discord, like this channel's for this and this channel's for this, to have that. So I changed that around, and it also seemed more fitting to have it be like a nice broad colonnade that you walk towards Town Square as you go through, as opposed to here's a little building, come in here for touristy information. I just thought that was a nice change. Tweaked a few other bits and pieces as well. Also, the new schedule for next week is already up. I changed the stream info terminal so that each time I update it per week, it's the latest post as opposed to one at the top, otherwise none of you will ever see it, and that's how I tagged everyone in that, so you'll see that in there. It's basically identical except for I've changed the date, but I'm trying to stay on top of it and stay consistent. I will post a different one because if the announcements for Retro Block Party happen this week, because I think there's like one more day on applications. If I get in with, because I've applied with Contra 3 again, if I get in on that, I'll be doing some bonus streams on Friday because I'll be needing to practice. There will be some bonus retro streams coming, in which case I'll do a changed graphic and I'll delete that one and put a fresh one straight in there for you. So obviously I had to rejig the order for all of that. But most importantly, did we? Wow, that's a big old. I just noticed you have I have a pretty red flag. You do. Stone Crusher Phoenix. Oh my god, and we beat it. Oh, Dex, I apply every month, but it's so much bigger now that the roster, well, some of the roster stays pretty the same people every month, but other times it changes around quite a lot. So yeah, I can't be like it used to be in DGDS where every month I applied, I basically got in because there's so many more people and it wouldn't be fair otherwise. Oh, I'm sorry, Lila. Yeah, you got brutally maimed and you had to go all Cyberpunk 2077 and get some upgraded body parts to replace lost limbs. No worries. But the main announcement, and obviously I think a bunch of you already know, if you're a citizen, you'll have gotten the sneak preview I put in Citizens Towers for your viewing pleasure, and I've since announced it and I put it on Twitter and shouted it all over the internet. Yeah, I'm one of the survivors, good at cybernetics. Since there's been a huge change of stuff. Cool, Mr. Nilsson, no worries. Yes, of course. Alex was one of the. Are you still an organizer or did it change? I think it's changed around now and you're taking a little break. But yeah, Alex really does a lot for RBP, and yes, he's very involved with that. And he's a very nice guy in that regard. We have dun 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 dun, as Pioneer already put it, an all new legit emote. Finally. Thank you, love you 3000 for your patience in waiting for me to do this. As many of you know, Operation Declutter has been the ultimate time suck, and I've been trying to get things done. So rather than having to read vertically down, it's just an unmasked version of my avatar. It's the first in what will be a suite of emotes hand drawn by myself. I'm forever my own worst critic. I may have gone a little bit ham on some of the detail. I tried to make it dead thing, and I still think not too much has been lost, but I might simplify stuff a little bit more in future, more like a mix between the style I've done here and a bit close to Man Over Mars' style, who's an excellent emote artist, so I think half of Retro Block Party / BGDS has got their emotes done by him. But I'm happy as a professional digital digital artist for 10 years, games artist, as you all know. I didn't want to be going to other emote makers. I'm like, I know how to do all this shit myself. Yeah, that one right there, it's very, very crisp. If you look at mine sized up, it looks the beans. I'm really happy with it. I think it came out great. But at the scale down, it's like a couple of things starting to blur and get a little bit lost. The finger guns make, yes, I thought legit. It just had to be a little bit Happy Days, Fonzie. But that is a much more legit emote, and I'm still really happy with it. I'm gonna shine it up. Obviously, of course, it's a bit more shrunken because it's got text in it. If I could have made it a pure image, I'd just be able to squeeze a lot more in. But it's done. The next one that's coming that'll hopefully take nowhere near as much time. In fact, I've got my sketch pad here with some ideas, will be the welcome banner. Oh fuck, now I have to do the freaky thing where I have to flip the webcam, which I hate doing. Transform, flip horizontal. No. Anyhow, Kraygasm, because it's a pun, play on words, is going to be in there. But a welcome to Krayven's Town, which we'll use for new residents, followers, and when we get raids, because some people like to go, shields up, defends, all this kind of thing when raids come in because of the name of them. But the nature of a raid is really positive. And I've always said when we've had raids come in, etc., wait, welcome on in, hit that legit. But I don't want to keep relying on legit for absolutely everything. Legit is going to be when we raid someone else, and it's the Krayven's Town Militia, when we get a new citizen, and obviously all the other uses, like emphasizing other emotes with legit hype, legit GG, or legit progress, whatever you want to do. Or when someone says, oh, that's legit, just throw in a couple of legits. It's the most common bit of gamer slang on the internet, as my spiel goes whenever someone becomes a new citizen. But yeah, I'll be expanding that, so the banner will come next. Kraygasm's gotta happen because of the username like Kray and an emote like Kraygasm. I've got to surpass it with something better or personalised for this. I'm thinking definitely Assault emote, considering the amount of hard games that I'm currently doing, like Cuphead and Darkest Dungeon and Dark Souls, and how some of you tune in just to watch me rage out and bleat and go, that's not fair. There's got to be like a Kray salt where I'm drowning in salt, like at the end of Scarface, but it's salt rather than cocaine. Number 5, I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. Thanks, Alex. Are they expanding? Yeah, they expanded up to 5, and that's what I've been feeling really guilty. Up to a maximum of 5, depending on the number of subs you have, much like the partners got. So they did that ages ago, and everyone else who's got that many has been sort of fuck. That one I wasn't watching. I was too busy looking elsewhere. Thank you, Doc. Another 75 biddies. He's like, oh, shut up and get to the live reading. That's what I want to hear. Yeah. I've been, because I don't want to just use placeholder ones or get other people to do them. It does take me a bit longer, but you folks who voluntarily sub to me and everything, that is something that I do feel you pay for, and other channels are giving you better value for your sub until I get these done. So I'm really trying to prioritize, get more of them done a little bit quicker, but I hope you like the new legit. I'm quite happy with it. It seems to have gone down well. Yeah, I always felt the one was ridiculously restrictive. Yeah, exactly. I like the idea that they've done a mini version of what the partners get, because the partners get up to like 50, which, you know, fair enough. Because it's starting to get a little bit like, what's the point of being a partner? But there's still quite a few perks, especially when it comes to meetups and networking and sponsorship, to being a partner. Maybe one day. Anyhow, that's yeah, with Town, we had some new changes. We got the new schedule up, and I rearranged the stream info terminals, and we have a new legit, and the welcome banner will be coming as soon as I can get the time. So thank you all. Right. Are you ready for some delightful, formal, slightly stumbling live reading, as we have a number of submissions to get through today? Oh, and if any of you happen to be doing me the honour of following me on Twitter, and why wouldn't you? It's free. That's our going live tweet. If you haven't already, do feel free to like and retweet that. I would be so very, very grateful. I'd be your best friend forever, and I'll bring you Nutella on toast. Alrighty. What do we have? We have a number of delightful submissions. Now, the first 3, I think, are from one of our nearest and dearest citizens, Mr. Duncan of Florence. And then Darkins came in with like another 5 billion. Let me see, today, 16th of June, yeah. So we've got about 8 stories to get through, all on the old Reddit. So the first one is a channel a subreddit I've not seen before.
First Blood.
What?
Sneaking in before the reads.
Oh my word, Piney Druid just got gore on the floor for 500 drops of blood, and that's just shared 10 more pride emotes with chat. Holy shit, Piney, thank you, and yes, Darkins, you did get me that time. Lila asked, can I somehow like and retweet it for a second time to get said toast? Yes, make a second Twitter account, follow me, and do it all over again. Piney, thank you so much. And folks, remember, search your pride emotes, see which ones. Let's get some spam. Let's get some colourful, delightful, pride-tastic emotes in here. Right, where the hell are mine? They never show up in the OBS one. It's ass, man. Right. And if you want to put some wings on that legit, if you have the wings, if you want to do a little bit of this, let's get some colour, Very happy to see a flying legit Krayven right there. Okay, so this is a new subreddit, and well, new to me. It's called Kids Are Fucking Stupid. Pretty self-explanatory. Just look at some of these kids. How can they be so dumb? Like, what, you seriously can't hula hoop? Jesus Christ. And babies know literally nothing. Goddamn kids are so dumb. That's the description. That's the community details. So, well, some of these are quite quick. There's one posted 17 hours ago. Oh wow, holy shit, folks, nice work. Hey, the flexing boxing gloves, that's beautiful. Oh, Lila. Oh my word, one wing Krayven like one wing Sephiroth. This is a thing of beauty. Dextro, thank you so much. I love that. And Darkens, oh, stunning. I am feeling maximum pride. And if you are of the LGBTQI persuasion, plus persuasion, know that you are welcome here, not just for Pride Months, but all the time. But for Pride Months, we are using the tag to let people know that this is an ally channel, as all channels fucking should be. So some of these are quite quick. Okay, it's not a story. Galactic Dad. Wow, what the hell is he thinking? When I was little, I learned what schizophrenia was from TV, and for a while I was really afraid because I thought I had it since I always heard my own voice in my head. So finally I told a doctor what he informed me I would... Oh God. I told a doctor and he informed me that what I was experiencing was called thinking. Oh my God. I can see the logic in that, but yeah, that's fucking idiotic. Well, that's a good start. Alright, this one is... Oh, this is a Today I Learned. Now, last week we got a nice National Geographic thing from this, and this is a USA Today story. So the title, like, so Today I Learned is, you learn something new every day. What did you learn today? Submit interesting and specific facts about something that you just found out. So Today I Learned, bones found at Seymour Island indicate that 37 to 40 million years ago, penguins stood at a formidable 6 feet tall and weighed 250 pounds. Oh my word. Can someone please explain to me what thinking is? It's this overrated thing that some idiots do before they speak. I've never seen the appeal myself. So big, but what is it about after the dinosaurs died out, all the mammals just like took ultra steroids and got massive, like giant sloths and woolly super rhinos? And so here we are in USA Today, big bird, fossil of a giant penguin discovered in New Zealand, and it's literally side by side laid out to see the way you'd see them swimming through the Antarctic Ocean. It's the length from beak to like stubby tail bum, the length of a full-grown human man. So, talk about your big bird. Scientists on Tuesday announced the discovery of a new species of an ancient giant penguin, one that was nearly 6 feet tall and weighed about 220 pounds. Fucking fat penguin. Roughly the same height and size as an average human male. Fossilized remains of the extinct penguin were discovered in the Otago region on New Zealand's South Island. The new species is named, I'll try and get this right, Kumimanu baisii. In the Maori language of New Zealand, kumi means monster and manu is the word for bird, so literally monster bird baisii. The penguin lived about 55 million years ago, scientists say, so the fossils help provide clues into the early evolutions of penguins. they shrunk. We examined the wing and leg bones of this penguin and quickly realised that we were looking at a previously unknown species, explained study lead author Gerald Mayer, a paleontologist at the Senckenberg Research Institute of Frankfurt, Germany. It is also one of the oldest known penguin species. Only 2 other species are known from as far back as 62 to 58 million years ago. The fossil species is not directly ancestral to any of the modern species, he said, adding that these giant penguins became extinct without leaving any direct descendants. When this species lived, there were very few potential predators in the seas around New Zealand. Large marine mammals, such as toothed whales and seals, had not yet evolved, so the only potential predators probably were sharks, Mayer said. However, other large marine predators soon appeared, so the penguins faced new competition and predation, which may have led to their extinction. Therefore, penguins did not... Oh, I was wrong. Therefore, penguins did not get smaller as they evolved. The smaller species lived together with the large penguins, but only the descendants of the smaller-sized penguins survived to the present day. The scientists assume that the penguin's gigantism was a result of the seabird's flightlessness. Like penguins today, they were not able to fly. It was certainly perfectly able to swim and walk on land, but probably spent most time in the water, Mayer said. As for its diet, this new penguin species was likely a fish eater and sported very long spear-like beaks. And the study was published in Nature Communications, a peer-reviewed British journal. And Jesus Christ, those skeletal bones are pretty impressive. Cool. That is a very awesome thing to learn. Excellent. Moving on to Duncan's third submission. Let me just catch up on chat here. Hi, Kissy, I like your toys. Oh, wait, thank you. Yes, I have my little background here. Sorry, I didn't catch you in the chat right there. I was busy reading off screen. I think it is annoying, and an idea is a headache with pictures. Thinking is annoying, an idea is and voice. Well, Kissy, thank you very much indeed. That's why I do Part of Story Sunday, as you are not the only kind soul who has said I have a rather pleasant voice. You might say his voice is legit. Well, Kissy, you have found the right stream to enjoy my voice, as Sunday is Story Sunday, where I do live reading for the first part, and then we move over to very, very narrative and dialogue, as in dialogue that I can read. Heavy Games, Pillars of Eternity 2 is coming in part 2 once I finish today's community submissions. So, in the words of Diablo 2, stay a while and listen. What would you rather fight? 1 horse-sized penguin or 100 penguin-sized horses? Interesting. Probably 100 penguin-sized horses, because a victory of 1 against 100 would be incredibly impressive. There'd be immense comedy value in beating the shit out of like a pony yay big. It'd be like fighting my living little ponies. However, if they've actually got the power that the average horse has in height to weight ratio, they'd probably kick my ankles and shins to splinters. So that is a problem. But a horse-sized penguin, I mean, 1 good spear with its beak, and that's me shagged. I mean, hell, I wouldn't really want to go toe-to-toe with an angry emperor penguin. They're mighty. I mean, they look like squat, weird little butlers that have shit themselves, and that's how they walk. Like someone who's soiled themselves and is walking along desperately to get the poo out of their trousers. But I wouldn't want to fight one. They look like vicious fights. Doesn't matter when I throw the grenade. See, now there's me thinking fisticuffs, Queensbury rules, and Darkins is like, yeah, I'm a human. I'm gonna rock up with my minigun and like explosives. BRB going to Tesco. All right, everyone like runs rampant now. We don't have any counsellors, at least to my knowledge, checking everything except for the ever loyal Kraybot. I never played Diablo 2 when I was younger, so that Baldur's Gate. Ho there, Wanderer. Stay thy course to indulge an old man. I need to play Baldur's Gate Remastered. Oh, and we got another hunt. Exclamation mark hunt. Can we get a Cliffhorn to brood again today? We've only had 1 of them appear so far. It requires 11 or more hunters. All right, moving on to the next story. From Duncan. Another one from Kids Are Fucking Stupid. I love the absolute brazen or like harshness of that subreddit title. So 15.2 thousand upvotes in 1 day. Ladies and gentlemen, my best friend. So this one is, rather than people posting whole stories, it's usually screenshots of like something someone's texted them or from a post somewhere else. So someone's posted a message from their best friend about something stupid they believed when they were a child. So, when I was in the 5th grade, maybe 10 or 11, I had the mentality that anything on my body, that was abnormal was a sign of cancer. It was pretty morbid now that I think about it. Excuse me. But anyways, there was this one time I got in the shower and discovered a bright red ball under my armpit. Being the absolute genius I was, I cried for an hour in the shower, thinking about how I was going to have to break the news to my grandma that I had cancer, capitalized. I didn't even try to touch it or take it off, thinking it would make it worse. When I finally got out of the shower and was drying myself carefully, I accidentally dried over the red ball and it came off. It took me an hour and a half to realise that the red ball was a string from my loofah, and I just spent an hour crying over it. In the end, I sat in a tub like this for quite some time like this, and literally it's just a picture of a pigeon with its legs in front of it, sat down looking extremely stupid. She thought a lump from her loofah sponge was like some growth and cried about it for an hour and a half. That's outstanding. A plated dust viper this time, and of course we kicked its ass. And Index HTML, hello. Welcome on in. Lovely to have you here. If I don't recognise your name, so if it's your first time coming by, welcome. If you haven't been by in a while, it's delightful to have you back. Alright, well yeah, kids really are quite thick. And next story, we've got a few now from, so thank you Duncan for those first 3 submissions. And we've got some good old ProRevenge, couple of stories from ProRevenge. Marvellous. Mwahaha. So if you don't know ProRevenge, have a story of you or someone you know getting back at someone with ProRevenge after being wronged, post it here. So this is like a halfway house between Nuclear Revenge and Petty Revenge, which are 2 other popular revenge subreddits. So posted 23 hours ago, 18.6 thousand upvotes. And this is it's a decent sized one. It's a medium to long. So, my foster parents treated me like crap, so I obliterated their reputation in our small town, right? This is most likely in America then. It opens up rather darkly, and this is by user Formal Yoga Pants. Always thank the user. My parents were both killed in a hit-and-run car accident when I was 10. Oof. My dad was only 39 and my mum 35. Neither of them had relatives who could take me in. We lived in a really small church-going town where everyone knew one another. My dad had been the heir to a small fortune and so didn't really have to work. He didn't like the big city, so him and my mum decided to move to a small town where he could have an antique store, as my mum was into collecting antiques. I would have had to go to the orphanage route when they died, but this couple from the church, who I will call Mr. and Mrs. Banks, made this big to-do in church about how a little girl needs a loving home and God has given us this joyous task of bringing her up in our home and hearts. It's been a long time and I don't remember if those were Mrs. Banks' exact words, but they were something cringeworthy like that. The Banks had their own daughter, Kitty, who was a year older than me. Let me just catch up there. I hated myself as a kid. I'd steal anything and everything. Oof, Tootsaka. I feel that. And Darkins loves some good revenge. Yeah, I wasn't my bestest friend of myself when I was young either, to be fair, Tootsaka. So, sorry, excuse me. Sorry, I don't normally stumble and cough. The Banks had their own daughter, Kitty, who was a year older than me. That should have meant we would be super good friends, but Kitty had her own thing going and practically ignored me. She was a holier-than-thou type. The Banks received a stipend from the state to take care of me, or stipends from the state to take care of me, but they also received checks every month from my dad's estate, which was supposed to take care of me until I was 18. When I did turn 18, I would receive full control of my inheritance. The Banks weren't exactly cruel to me, but in private it was clear they were using me to build up their reputation in town. In front of other people, they'd fawn over me in a sick, saccharine cotton candy fashion that made me uncomfortable. They'd also make Kitty be nice to me in public, which she resented. The Banks would also put on a big show whenever the social workers came to check up on me. They'd coach me before the lady would come and tell me to praise how godly and wonderful they were. After the social worker left, they'd go right back to ignoring me and spending my dad's money on crap on the internet or on trips. It was clear to me, even as a tween and teen, that the banks were only using some of my endowment, both from the state and from my trust, to take care of me. The rest they spent on themselves. As I grew older, I could see that my foster parents would pretend as though they had a great business acumen, and that's why they had more money and could buy a new Volvo. Where I'm from, a new Volvo is an event, and take a trip to New York and buy fancy clothes for Kitty. When I was 17, I noticed that my foster parents were stockpiling away my trust fund money to pay for Kitty's tuition to college. Jesus Christ, this is awful, as any good pro-revenge story starts out. Throughout this time, the banks would never outright say so, but would heavily imply that I owed them, and that once I got control of my inheritance, that I should be godly and generous and give them some material compensation for all the work they did to raise me. I think they already got lots of material, especially since Mrs. Banks practically stole all of my mum's antiques from her store and kept them for herself, gave them to Kitty or to her other relatives. One thing my mum never kept at her store was an extremely expensive Baroque-era fine china set, absolutely complete and worth tens of thousands of dollars. Not a replica, the real deal. So real, Napoleon Bonaparte himself might well have eaten a steak off of those plates. Probably not, but you get the point. It was my china set, of course, but Mrs. Banks thought I was an idiot and didn't know that. She would always talk about how this china set will go to Kitty on her wedding day. Mrs. Banks assumed that since I always dressed like a tomboy, didn't care about all my mum's antiques that Mrs. Banks stole or gave away, that I just didn't care about the china set. When I was a kid, my mum told me that things were things and not to obsess over them, so having the Fro china set for myself wasn't an issue. What was an issue was Mrs. Banks acting like it was hers to give away. Wrong, lady. So, once Kitty went off to college, thanks to my biological mum and dad's money, I had to make my own plans. I had always done well in school and had actually gotten a partial scholarship to attend school out of state. The rest I could easily pay for with my inheritance, which I would very soon have control of. Per usual, Mr. and Mrs. Banks were haranguing me about how I owed them compensation, and since I was going to be rich soon, I ought to share the wealth. I figured that over the past 7 years, they had probably stolen or misappropriated more than $200,000 of my parents' money. Holy shit. To say nothing of the state money they misused. I think they more than shared the wealth. I never promised anything. I just smiled and kept tally of every single bank statement, I got them quarterly, that my trust issued over the years. The Banks family never shared them with me, of course, but when I asked the actual bank for a rundown, they were more than happy to oblige. I also wrote down every single major purchase my foster parents clearly made over the past 7 years with money that was clearly beyond their means as a housewife and insurance salesman. Things such as a $40,000 car paid for in cash. They used a used $20,000 car paid for in cash that they gave to Kitty, trips to Hawaii, New York, cash gifts to the church that made them look super generous at my deceased parents' expense. I kept it all in a nice 3-wing binder. And Citizen Duncan of Florence, welcome on in. How you doing, mate? Pleasure to have you here. We've done your 3 stories so far already. Thanks so much for submitting them, mate. Especially that penguin one is fantastic. And yeah, she kept all these sketchy expenses in a nice 3-ringed binder. I already arranged my travel to my new campus. I didn't have much stuff at the bank's house anyway, and had zero intention of coming back, at least to their home. The Banks knew I was leaving, but didn't bother seeing me off because they assumed I'd come back to give them their due. Yeah, the penguin one is fantastic, Duncan. I waited for our church's yearly antique sale extravaganza, set to begin in 3 days. Per usual, the Banks donated all sorts of random stuff, many of it knickknacks that used to belong to my mum and technically belonged to me. They weren't shy about giving away my stuff and taking credit for it. While Mr. and Mrs. Banks were on one of their shopping sprees with my parents' money and away from their house, I boxed up the china set and brought it to church. I told the rummage sale committee that Mrs. Banks wanted to donate the priceless antiques for sale, all benefits to go to the church. This donation is made in the name of Mr. and Mrs. Banks. Wow, that's bloody... I mean, Christ, a Baroque china sale like that. I was being fair. If Mrs. Banks was really so godly, she'd be delighted that such a wonderful donation be made in her name. Sadly, I knew she'd go the other way because she was faker than porn star implants. That's a fantastic... I'm stealing that line. The ladies were flabbergasted, especially when I told them the appraisal of the set's value. I also told them that if they needed proof of ownership and right to sell, to contact the number of a certain attorney in New York. They thanked me profusely and praised the Lord Jesus for Mrs. Banks' generosity. This would be the most expensive item in their sales history. Everyone knew no one could afford to buy the set outright, but everyone would love to buy the pieces piecemeal. Oh my god. I'm doing very well, thank you, Darkins. Cheers for asking. Yeah, I've had a nice weekend, been out socialising and had a pleasant lunch today. I'm glad you're good, mate. I'm glad you're good. I got a cup and saucer, or I got one of the chargers. I got an egg cup. The Banks were supposed to work the sale the second day, and I wasn't there. What I did hear was that my foster mum went ballistic when she saw her china set for sale, and that it was a huge hit, and ladies from all over the county had bought pieces of it and raised so much money for the church. My foster mum threw a tantrum and said that I had stolen the set from her house. The ladies at the church explained that I had made the donation in her name, and she was getting credit for the donation to the church. My foster mum was practically yanking her hair out, according to what I heard later. She was trying to track down who had bought pieces and trying to get them back. Of course, she was unsuccessful. What she was successful in was looking like a grade A douchebag. The entire church thought she was selfish and materialistic and acting very ungodly, especially the way she cursed her foster daughter. A week later, my foster parents received a package by registered mail from my attorney and I. It contained my binder, where I showed my bank statements and also a list of all their spending extravagances. It also contained a warning from my attorney that should they ever try to contact me again for money, that they will receive a bill and a court date. That was that. 10 years later, I work as a third grade teacher. I'm married to an accountant. We have a 3-year-old son and a 1-year-old daughter. Kitty ended up working through college, and as we've gotten older, we've reconnected. She apologised for the way she acted when we were kids. We're friends now and see each other multiple times a year, often just for lunch. She's an elementary school teacher too and married to an engineer. She has a 4-year-old daughter. Both of our kids play together when our families meet. We both have our own wedding china. She has gone to a lot of therapy due to her toxic parents, she tells me. As for her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Banks, they still live in their small town because they're too broke to move. Their reputation is of being that couple who drove both their children away and stole money from that poor little girl whose parents died, and they tried to steal money from Jesus when they whined about getting their Baroque china back. I hope your Volvo was worth it, assholes. That... Holy hell. And the best part of that is the daughter realised what... it sucks that she had to go to therapy because of how toxic they obviously were and materialistic. But that the foster sisters became friends and they got their true comeuppance. That's fantastic. Darkens, as usual, an excellent revenge story. Right, we've got another one hot on the heels of that. And this one is... Well, let's have a little look how long it is first. Another medium long one. It's quite blocked out though. Right. So, 14 hours old, 4.4 thousand upvotes. Bitch try. Oh, and this is from user Gustavo the Recliner. Bitch tries to destroy my orchard. I bankrupt her and get her house torn down. Holy crap! Well, let's start a few years in the past. My great-grandparents planted an orchard. It is now at least 120 years old. My grandparents and my parents were really proud of the peach trees growing in it and did their best to keep them in good health and well. We always threw a big party when the peaches were ready to be harvested and invited all of our friends and neighbours to do it. I loved those parties. The neighbours on the property to the south of the orchard were particularly fond of our peaches. They were a bunch of fine old people, and me and the old man Sam were pretty good friends. He taught me a lot about woodworking with hand tools only, and we had some great evenings in his workshop where we finished many a good whiskey in there together. In return, he got a lot of fine peaches and marmalade and homemade peach liqueur, etc. Sadly, he died a good 10 years ago. Cancer is a real arsehole. Can confirm, yes it is. His wife followed soon after. Many suspected it was of a broken heart. They had no kids, so all their property was left to the state, except his tools and whiskey collection, which he had gifted me a few weeks before he died. Oh, that's really sweet. In comes Karen. The name speaks for itself, apparently. Haircut, attitude, bitchiness, the whole deal. This rising stereotype of an internet Karen, sadly. She bought the property of my late neighbours. We hadn't had the kind of money to buy it at that time, as we met some dire straits the years before, and all our savings were gone. The first thing she did, Karen, before she actually moved in, was to go around making demands of the neighbours on the surrounding properties. When it's finally our turn to listen to her gibberish, she told us that we needed to remove half of the trees as the leaves were blowing on her property. We told her, in a polite way, that we won't comply to her demands, as the orchard is a vital part of our family heritage, tradition and life, and has been there for at least 120 years. She was pretty pissed, but did nothing for the time being. Hunt time, don't miss your chance to hunt, folks. The Cravenstown stories will still be blasting through your radios and in-vehicle sound systems as we go towards the latest creature nest. There are some things you need to know before I continue with the story. The workshop I mentioned before was situated right at the border of the property. It was a small timber frame building, at least 160 to 180 years old. The regulations in my state are pretty strict concerning old structures. Every structure over 100 years is protected, and you need a special permission to tear it down. Failing to get this permission can lead to a hefty fine. To get the permission to build a new building, it has to be up to code, and you have to ask your surrounding neighbours if they agree, and if they agree, you're good to go. Except there is one specialty in my county. You have to keep a certain distance to the border of the property to allow emergency services full access to your property, like the building, I guess. If one of those requirements isn't met, the building is illegal, or at least only partially legal, and can actually be ordered by the court to be torn down. Note, this might come in handy later. So, back to Karen. After our first encounter with her, she did her best to pester the whole neighbourhood. She got the neighbour's dog put down because he allegedly attacked her brat. It later turned out she faked the attack. The dog was the sweetest and most innocent dog you can imagine. A Bernese mountain dog, big but a real teddy bear. What a cunt. Anyways, she later got us to stop doing our annual peach parties, and she called the police every time for various reasons. Noise complaints, reasons including noise complaints. We had a band playing there in the afternoon. Arson. We lit a fire in a designated fire pit in the middle of our property. She called the ATF on us for allegedly making moonshine. My dad actually had a license to distill for our own consumption. In short, she was a real pain in the bum. That's a very polite way to put it. And after 3 years, we decided it wasn't worth it to deal with various officers and law enforcement agencies every time we threw a party. We decided to quit. After she had reached this goal, she resorted to pestering us to remove the orchard. We didn't cave in, and some things started to get really fishy. Somehow the tyres of our trucks got slashed. Eggs got thrown on our farmhouse. Our cat disappeared and surfaced a few days later in pretty rough condition. It looked like somebody had tried to cut his tail off. Don't worry, he healed up completely, but we actually couldn't prove that she did all of that. Wow. This woman's a genuine sociopath. Then came the day she made her biggest mistake. She had a company come in a sort of secret operation and tear down the old woodworking shop overnight. 2 days later, they started building a big garage and recreational centre / house right where the shop was. But she missed one fine detail, which got pretty important later on. She didn't ask for our permission, nor for the neighbours. A short while after, the trees right next to her property started to get sick. The leaves turned brown in the middle of summer and the branches started to die. We lost 4 trees. Before we could figure out the cause, somebody has driven long copper nails into them. We had a suspicion, but we couldn't prove it, so we put up some trail cameras, perfectly legal as it was on our own property. We caught her red-handed. She apologised, and my dad, being the way too nice guy he is, wanted to let her off the hook, but not me. The nail she drove into our oldest tree was the final nail in her coffin. I started to investigate. I had some friends at the administration of our county and asked them to do some inquiries. Turned out she hasn't applied for permission to tear down the old shop, nor for permission to build the new building. I further did some inquiries on the borderline of our property. Turns out the old markers vanished over time and her building was about 3 feet onto our property. Ho 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 ho! After I had gathered all this information, I presented it to my parents. At first they were reluctant as they didn't want to start a neighbourhood clash. But after I recalled all the things she did to us and our neighbours, they were in. So, let the games begin. First, we called the authorities on her for tearing down a protected building and presented them with all the evidence we gathered. Then we called the building authorities on her for building a building without permission, not up to code, and not only didn't she keep the required distance to the property border, she also built on our property without our permission. So, long story short, turned out the workshop hasn't only been protected because of its age, but also because it was a historical landmark, which played a vital role in a conflict back in the 1860s. It was probably the American Civil War, maybe. She got sued for this and had to pay a fine of an equivalent of about $150,000. She further had to demolish her newly built building, costing an additional $50,000. Got fined for this too, about $83,000. So if you're doing the maths, that's up to $283,000. And had to rebuild the workshop at her own expense, which is another whopping $154,000. $437,000 are up to, as it had to be period correct up to the smallest detail. Means it had to be built with the correct materials, with hand tools only, and to the correct dimensions. As you can imagine, paying professionals to build quite a large timber frame building only by hand gets pretty expensive pretty fast. So all in all, it cost her an equivalent of $437,000 plus further expenses for lawyers, etc, etc. This caused her to go bankrupt, so she had to sell the property in the end, which my parents bought, by the way. Last I heard of her was that she moved back to the big city. Delightful, excellent. Oh, sorry, I already feel, yeah, dark and so far they've been a nice even thing, but that sort of blues rock one was a little bit more upbeat. I was thinking, is that maybe a bit loud? Okay, but anyway, it's past now, sorry about that. Excellent ProRevenge. Right, how many have we got left? We've got, it fixed itself, yes, it magically resolved it. So we've got 1, 2, we've got 2 more. We've got it's from the classics, right? I Don't Work Here Lady and Malicious Compliance. Let's continue. So this one is a good I Don't Work Here Lady. So 2 days ago, 6,200 upvotes from user Airborne Chaos. So this happened back in 2007 or 2008. I'm not sure if this belongs here. It looks like it might fit. Cool. I lived in a small town and my house had really bad cell phone coverage at the time, so I still had a landline for the house, complete with an answering machine. Goodness me. One day, I come home to find several phone calls from a regional pizza restaurant on my answering machine. I quickly find that they had printed these mass junk mail flyers with some pretty decent discounts and my phone number. It was a pretty simple mistake. My phone number ended in 4442 and theirs was 4422. I called the pizza place and told them what happened. The manager was nice and told me he had nothing to do with it, that the corporate office made them up, but he would call them and try to work out a fix. Yeah, I imagine Cedar, and I imagine they restarted the party tradition once that lady moved away because they bought her property as well. For sure, but yeah, I have to admit, over the loss of the trees, they could have squeezed a bit more, to be sure. Let's see. Hang on. So they call them and try to work out a fix. That night, I probably got 80 phone calls. I changed the outgoing message on my answering machine to give callers their correct number. More than half the calls I got still left me their pizza order. Who calls for a pizza and expects to leave their order on an answering machine? That town has more dumb people than I thought possible, and I already had a low opinion to begin with. This went on for almost 2 weeks. I kept calling the restaurant and the manager kept telling me they can't get a hold of anyone who can do anything. Finally, I'd had enough when a snowstorm blows through my town and the pizza orders go up. Snowy days seem to be busy for food delivery for some reason. I would have figured that would be a stay in and cook day, because how the delivery is going to go out. I start taking orders, writing them down as accurately I can, and then forwarding them to the pizza place through the number listed on their website for home office. Oh, nice. At the time, if you call that number after hours, the robot that answered gave you a list of extensions, and I eventually found the one for VP marketing. I wanted president, but meh, close enough, vice president. Once I found an extension, I forwarded every call for them I got, like this. Hello, this is Airborne Chaos again. I have an order for 1 extra large Goliath pizza, 1 order of cheese sticks, and a bottle of Sprite to be delivered to John Dow at 244 High Street, Small Town. His credit card number is insert credit card details here, and his phone number is phone number. I really hope you can help me get these people their food. This seems to be pretty inefficient. Thanks! I made at least 20 calls like that. I don't remember the exact number, but it wasn't as many as I thought it would be when I made the plan. Nevertheless, next morning, I got a call from the company president. They paid my phone bill for a year, minus long distance, to buy my phone number from me. Honestly, they didn't need to pay my phone bill for a year, just covering the cost of changing the number. But they offered. Oh well. Trees get expensive bloody fast, your eye darkens. Well, that's a very good way to deal with that particular issue. And lastly, for the last part of part 1, and Krayven reads community submissions, we have malicious compliance. And description is people conforming to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. Posted by user Alden World Warden 15 hours ago. Already got 9.4 thousand upvotes. Okie dokie, let's crack on. So, flashback to my first year of teaching. I was a 21-year-old middle school teacher, fresh out of college and extremely green. I was admittedly shaky when it came to parent communication. It is quite intimidating to speak to a parent as an equal when you are less than 10 years older than their children. Many of them were old enough to be my parent, which made things awkward for me. Enter Mum. Her daughter, Diva. I hope that's a made-up name, because otherwise that's just too bitterly ironic. Really see you dying. Wow. Christ, I didn't think that would be that much. Enter Mum. Her daughter, Diva, did absolutely nothing in my class except stir up drama, be extremely rude and obnoxious, and generally anything but do her work. Now, student grades are easily accessible at all times through an online parent portal, so I have always been of the opinion that parents should never be surprised by grades at the end of the quarter. So the end of the second quarter is drawing to an end, and I get an abrasive call from Mom demanding a parent-teacher conference with an administrator present. Of course, teachers are instructed to meet with a parent at any time they want a conference. One of my assistant principals sat in on the meeting. From the moment Mum sat across from me, I knew where Diva got her attitude. Mom was belligerent, accusing, and rude. She began to angrily accuse me of causing her daughter to fail, somehow my fault. Basically, I should have done everything under the sun to make sure she didn't fail. I should have contacted her early. I should have sent home extra copies. I should have been checking Diva's agenda, etc. While I admittedly should have called her early, her chewing me out in front of my boss was the most embarrassing moment of my career. My assistant principal worked out a compromise that went like this. Since Mom didn't want a lot of phone calls, apparently a busy person, it was agreed that I would write a note to Mom in Diva's agenda every Friday about her grade and her missing work. Embarrassed and chastised, I could barely look my boss in the eye. I would resolve that I would comply to the fullest, so much so that it would be annoying. I would be above reproach so that she could never berate me like that again. However, I never could have imagined the incredible events that followed. In the weeks that followed, I not only wrote in Diva's agenda, but I printed off lists of her missing assignments, progress reports, and letters home, and stapled them to her agenda. I did this every week, without fail. And Diva's behaviour did not change. By the end of the third quarter, she was missing 8 assignments and was failing my class yet again. Lo and behold, I get an email from Mom demanding a parent-teacher conference with a principal present. She arrives and starts in on me again about how I'm unprofessional and how I'm not supporting her daughter and how I had yet again failed to notify her that her daughter was failing. Then the realization struck me. She had never looked at the agenda. I painstakingly stapled progress reports, letters, and missing work into her agenda for nearly 3 months, and she never once checked. A grin broke across my face. Me. Can we look at Diva's agenda? There's something I think you should see. Mom leaves the room and comes back with Diva's agenda. Me begins flipping through the agenda, showing her every single page that I wrote on or stapled. Me. Now, if you'll notice, I have written in Diva's agenda and stapled progress reports, letters to you, and lists of missing work into her agenda every single week since we last spoke, as per our agreement. Are you telling me that you didn't check her agenda once? Mom, blood drains from her face as she realizes her credibility with my principal is now gone. Me. At this point in the quarter, it is too late for your child to turn in make-up work. Please be sure to be checking your child's agenda every Friday for an update concerning her progress. In order for your child to be successful, you need to be involved. Do you have any questions? Mum, stammering with excuses and apologies for not checking. By this point, I could tell my principal was stifling laughter, so I knew that I had won. Mom left very quickly, and I never received one of those harsh emails again. Diva's behaviour didn't improve at all, but I rode the satisfaction of that win all the way through to the summer. Outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. And this is just referring back to the peach tree one. So they could prove the 4 trees were her doing. Apparently they didn't install the video recordings, if you remember the story, until 4 of them had been taken down. There was a recent case of a chopped, if I recall, oak trees. Vid recordings probably caused the search warrant over damage to property. Yeah, the recording they showed red-handed. They could use that as proof for the oldest tree, definitely. Well, thank you, folks, very much for the submissions. As always, fantastic, great fun to read. As I posted in Town Square in Krayven's Town itself, I would love to get more of some of the variety like we've had from Duncan the last 2 weeks, with this week the USA Today story about the prehistoric giant penguins, and last week the National Geographic story with the bunker cities under Beijing. More stuff like that. If you've come across interesting like scientific discoveries, cool stories, stranger than truth like kind of stuff that's like really it's real and you verified it but it's really cool, the kind of stuff you see coming across the internet. Also other bits of comedy. If you've come across some good satire like stories from The Onion, or if in the UK the Daily Mash and What Watford Whispers and stuff like that. Ideally, not so much political, because like with the channel rules, we don't do direct politics and religion and all that kind of stuff, but funny satire that relates to real life. I'd be delighted if you see some of that. Feel that that's okay to be read out as well. Obviously, this started as Krayven Reads Reddit, but I just see it as Krayven Reads community submissions now. So Reddit will still be a mainstay, because especially stuff like Malicious Compliance and I Don't Work Here Lady and ProRevenge are always done in a readable story format. But other stories and articles that you'd like to get the reading treatment and have read out and shared amongst the community rather than just a link that other people have to go and read themselves, that would be great. So yeah, don't feel the Reddit ones, keep them coming, they're fantastic. And thank you to Duncan for 3 and to Darkens for this week being submitted. But the rest of you who are sitting and enjoying that, and you are, oh, we'll get a hunt in. And if you are members of Craven's Town, speaking of which, here's the link. Well, if you're not already in the town, we'd love to get to know you. Do feel free to join in and become a full part of our little community. But yeah, in the suggestions forum, in the streaming complex, you can post that stuff. You can post that stuff right there, and I will endeavour to read every submission, time allowing, that we can get in for the first part of